Good evening. Today we're starting with the patient bloodhound. Sleep well. In May 1937, a bloodhound who lived in Wapakoneta Falls, Ohio, was put on the trail of a man suspected of a certain crime. The bloodhound followed him to Akron, Cleveland, Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, Albany, and New York. The Westminster Dog show was going on at the time, but the bloodhound couldn't get to the garden because the man got on the first ship to Europe. The ship landed at Cherbourg and the bloodhound followed. The man to Paris, Beauvais, Calais, Dover, London, Chester, Yandundo, not even gonna try for that name, in Edinburgh. When the dog wasn't able to take in the international sheep trials. From Edinburgh, the bloodhound trailed the man on Liverpool, but since the man immediately got to the ship in New York, the dog didn't have a chance to explore the wonderful Liverpool smells. In America again, the bloodhound traced the man to Teaneck, Tennessee, Nyack, and Peapack, where the dog didn't have time to run with the Peapack beagles. From Peapack, the hound followed the man to Cincinnati, St. Louis, Kansas City, St. Louis, Cincinnati, Columbus, Akron, and finally back to Wapakoneta Falls. There the man was acquitted of a crime he had been followed for. The bloodhound had developed fallen paw pads, and he was so worn out he could never trail anything that was faster than a turtle. Furthermore, since he had gone through the world with his wise eyes and nose to the ground, he had missed all its beauty and excitement. Well, the paths of glory at least lead to the The paths of glory at least lead to the grave, but the paths of duty may not get you anywhere. Unicorns in the garden. Once upon a sunny morning, a man who sat in a breakfast nook looked up from scrambled eggs to see a white unicorn with a golden horn quietly cropping the roses in the garden. The man went up to the bedroom, where his wife was still asleep, and woke her. "There's a unicorn in the garden," he said, "eating roses." She opened one unfriendly eye and looked at him. "The unicorn is a mythical beast," she said, and turned her back on him. The man walked slowly downstairs and out into the garden. The unicorn was still there. He was now browsing among the tulips. "Here, unicorn," said the man. Then he pulled up a lily and gave it to him. The unicorn ate it gravely, with a high heart. Because there was a unicorn in his garden, the man went upstairs and roused his wife again. "The unicorn," he said, "ate a lily." His wife sat up in bed and looked at him coldly. "You are a booby," she said, "and I am going to have you put in the booby hatch." The man, who had never liked the words booby and booby hatch, and who liked them even less on a shining morning when there was a unicorn in the garden, thought for a moment. "We'll see about that," he said. He walked over to the door. "He has a golden horn in the middle of his forehead," he told her. Then he went back to the garden to watch the unicorn, but the unicorn had gone away. The man sat down among the roses and went to sleep. As soon as the husband had gone out in the house, the wife got up and dressed as fast as she could. She was very excited, and there was a glow in her eye. She telephoned the police, and she telephoned the psychiatrist. She told them to hurry to her house and bring a straitjacket. When the police and the psychiatrist arrived, they sat down in chairs and looked at her with great interest. "My husband," she said, "saw a unicorn this morning." The police looked at the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist looked at the police. "He told me it ate a lily," she said. The The psychiatrist looked at the police, and the police looked at the psychiatrist. He told me it had a golden horn in the middle of its forehead, she said. At a solemn signal from the psychiatrist, the police leaped from their chairs and seized the wife. They had a hard time subduing her, for they put up a terrific struggle, but they finally subdued her. Just as they got her into a straitjacket, the husband came back into the house. "Did you tell your wife you saw a unicorn?" asked the police. "Of course not," said the husband. "The unicorn is a mythical beast." "That's all I wanted to know," said the psychiatrist. "Take her away." "I'm sorry, sir, but your wife is as crazy as a jaybird." So they took her away, cursing and screaming, and shut her up in the institution. The husband lived happily ever after. Moral: don't count your boobies until they are hatched. The rabbits who caused all the trouble. Within the memory of the youngest child, there was a family of rabbits who lived near a pack of wolves. The wolves announced that they did not like the way the rabbits were living. The wolves were crazy about the way that themselves were living, because it was the only way to live. One night, several wolves were killed in an earthquake, and this was blamed on the rabbits, for it is well known that rabbits pound on the ground with their hind legs and cause earthquakes. On another night, one of the wolves was killed by a bolt of lightning, and this was also blamed on the rabbits, for it is well known that lettuce eaters cause lightning. The wolves threatened to civilize the rabbits if they didn't behave, and the rabbits decided to run away to a desert island. But the other animals, who lived at a great distance, shamed them, saying, "You must stay where you are and be brave. This is no world for escapists. If the wolves attack you, we will come to your aid, in all probability. So the rabbits continued to live near the wolves, and one day there was a terrible flood which drowned a great many wolves. This was blamed on the rabbits, for it is well known that carrot nibblers with long ears cause floods. The wolves descended on the rabbits for their own good and imprisoned them in a dark cave for their own protection. When nothing was heard about the rabbits for some weeks, the other animals demanded to know what had happened to them. The wolves replied that the rabbits had been eaten, and since they had been eaten, the affair was a purely internal matter. But the other animals warned that they might possibly unite against the wolves unless some reason was given for the destruction of the rabbits. So the wolves gave them one. "They were trying to escape," said the wolves, "and as you know, this is no world for escapists." Moral: run, don't walk, to the nearest desert island. The Hen in the Heavens. Once upon a time, a little red hen was picking up stones and worms and seeds in a barnyard, when something fell on her head. "The heavens are falling down," she shouted, and she began to run, still shouting, "The heavens are falling down." All the hens that she had met, and all the roosters and turkeys and ducks laughed at her smugly, the way you laugh at one who is terrified when you aren't. "What did you say?" they chortled. "The heavens are falling down," cried the little red hen. Finally, a very pompous rooster said to her, "Don't be silly, my dear. It was only a pea that fell on your head." And he laughed and laughed, and everybody else, except the little red hen, laughed. Then suddenly, with an awful roar, great chunks of crystallized clouds and huge blocks of icy blue sky began to drop on everybody from above, and everybody was killed, and the laughing rooster and the little red hen and everybody else in the barnyard, for the heavens actually were falling down. Moral: it wouldn't surprise me a bit if they did. Looks like we are on the second part of this book. further fables of our time. We will explore this tomorrow then. Sleep well.